If it's on topic, it's not rambling. If it's off topic, it's definitely rambling.
Oh, I ramble on topic. Come on. Come on. You know I do.
Uh,
I
I
do.
guess so.
I know
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I take something, what color's the sky? 10 minutes later, I might get the blue. Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh show.
After turning the page on our first 250 episodes, we leap into the future. Or is it? AI is the topic for today, and with a generational difference, there's quite a bit of disagreement in this episode, which is always enjoyable for Bob and I because too often we align. So, this is a really fun one for us. I'll be interested to hear comments from our listeners. On YouTube, there's a whole comment section, so drop them in there. Let's discuss exactly how you feel about this. While you're there, give us a like and subscribe. Also, keep your eyes open. We have a few more things in the AI realm that are going to start showing up. I think you'll like it. On to the episode. Today's topic is about AI, and there's definitely a generational difference between Bob and I about how we feel about this and our willingness to wade into the unknown that is a part of AI and its evolution within our industry, the world, the dangers, all of those things that are there. So as you may assume, I am the one that's very comfortable with it. I'm really leaning into it. Bob is a bit more hesitant. So I think the first thing to do is like let's just talk about that and talk about the concerns, fears, whatever you may have, Bob, because I know you're not the only one. There's lots of people that I've talked to across all ages that have feelings very similar towards the one that you have.
So why don't we start with, and I don't know if you should remember this, but there was a few months ago,
Mhm.
you were talking about publishing content
Yes.
on Kazi or something,
Yeah.
and I pulled a Bob Galen on you, as I recall, and I got really judgy,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah.
Which is which
Yeah.
which I'm fully right. I'm being vulnerable here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm calling myself out. But I remember you had published some articles or something, and you had
Mhm.
used, it was early on. You had
Yeah.
used ChatGPT, and I was like, not hammering you, but I was like, how much? So, and you were like, I wrote this and I wrote that, and then I leveraged ChatGPT, and I was like, well, what was the percentage of your content versus ChatGPT? And there were like 5 articles or something like that,
Yeah.
and and bless your little heart, one of them you were like 90% or something was ChatGPT. The others were
Mhm.
maybe 50-50. Some were like just a starter.
Mhm.
And I remember, and I apologize, Josh, but I got on your case. I'm like, well, you can't take credit for that, right? It's not your content. And you were like, yeah, it is. And we were arguing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the whole point of the genesis of ideas, publishing intellectual property, right? Our IP, our content, where does it come from?
Mhm.
And I was unbalanced there. So what were your reactions, and has that changed over time? So let's use that as a springboard.
One of the things, because people reached out in our Discord, which I'll share the link out because I know people have asked. As I talked about this, folks really pushed back in similar ways that you did about, well, like, am I going to find value in the content like I would if you wrote it what 100%? And yes, but also what I explained is that the whole reason for that content for me was around optimizing for SEO to allow myself to begin to show up in Google searches way higher and way more often than I do. And then that draws them in. And then there's the rest of the content that is there. So while I still stand behind the content that I publish, like I am not going to publish something that I don't believe in, but also I can use this tool to help me achieve my goal of acquiring more customers by just getting more eyeballs on the content, which in turn opens the door to the offerings that my company has. So Bob and his articles, those are 100% Bob. and they are intended for you to read and digest and be thoughtful and respond and all of that, which is a different approach than I was taking with the blog that I was pushing out, because I've tried to blog. I'm not as good as it as Bob is. So that's a skill that I don't have, which is why I really leaned into using a tool to help me make it happen.
I think one of the things I was stuck on at the time, I don't know if I am now, right? I've softened because it's become more popular. And I was sort of believe it or not, Metacasters, I can be curmudgeonly at times. So I was curmudgeonly reacting to it. But it was representing the content as yours. So
Mhm.
what to me, when I write, it's like an authorship, right? When I say this is Bob Gale, it's 100% me. Now, I may be reacting to what I read, or I may be reacting to a conversation, but the content isn't created and then I modify it. I have a blank page. I have
Yeah.
a blank page, and then I start filling in that page. I think most writers take that approach. So it was. I felt at the time that it was sort of. It might be cheating. One, it was cheating with creating it, but it's also making sure that folks, understand, like, it's not totally your content or something like that.
Well, and you don't even know the extent of the cheating. So I'll talk through the whole process that I was using, and this was a bunch of learnings I found on YouTube. There's a fantastic person that is in charge of SEO for some men's fashion brands in Europe, and he's really good at his job, and he's understood how to take advantage of these tools. And so I ended up learning a whole lot about how to find the keywords in Google that are ranking higher now. So these are the things that people are searching for, and not
Okay.
only does it show you these are the things that are searching for, the competition is low. So there's not a lot of people out there creating content for that word. So it's an opportunity for you to go and get the eyeballs. And then what you do is you create a prompt for your chatbot to say, okay, these are the keywords that I want to write content for. Create a bunch of titles and descriptions that I could write over the coming month that attack this word, and it spits that out. And so then you find ones that you resonate with and you think makes sense, or at least this is what I did. It spits out 20, and there's
Yep.
like 10 or 12 out there. I'm like, yeah, I like that. So then you ask it to expand on that and say, okay, turn this into a blog post and make sure it's optimized for SEO for these keywords and all these things. So the thing where it really helped me was it has all of the knowledge of SEO that I don't. And for me to learn would take months, years, where I can say, help me write a blog post about this thing optimized for X, Y, and Z. And it does that way better than I ever could. So for the use case that I was using
Right.
the blog posts for, that's what made sense to me, and I'm happy with it, and I know what it is, and maybe I need to put a disclaimer or something there. I don't know what, but it helped me achieve the goal that I was after. But again, I I am not the person that blogs as well as you do, and I've tried, and I've just accepted that hey, there's things I'm good at and things that I'm not, and that's not one of them. Like I have thoughts and ideas that I would want to write about, but execution isn't as good as I would like.
See, I think I'm stuck a little bit
Mhm.
also on what comes first, right? So I think I would have less of an issue to no issue if you wrote something and then you threw it into a filter and said, please SEO this,
Yeah.
right? If you composed an idea, it could be utter crap, right? I mean, it could,
Mhm.
grammatically incorrect, hanging sentences, some gaps and things like that. But if you created a piece, a set of prose, and then you ran it through. It's like what I have Grammarly.
Mhm.
So I use Grammarly when I'm writing. but Grammarly is a post-processing as opposed to a pre-processor. Maybe that's the way I'll describe it.
Gotcha.
So it's the part of post-process pre versus post.
Hmm.
And the creative process on pre. I'm not anti-tool because I use Grammarly and other tools, but the genesis, the seeds of things are mine, right? I
Yeah.
even and I don't know. I don't know. But I remember at the time I was jabbing at you probably overly excessively about it.
No, no. You have
But
jabbed harder.
I don't know if that's changed over time. The other thing, let's switch gears.
Yeah.
Another, and I'll let you smack me about this one, but I'm part of my curmudgeonliness with ChatGPT and other AI is the this too shall pass, and it's a fad. So I've seen fads.
Hmm.
I'm old enough that I've seen fads. Microsoft had a little squiggly thing at one point. Remember, it was a
Clippy,
paperclip,
Clippy.
Clippy,
Yeah,
right? And Clippy was going to take over the known universe.
yeah.
And then I thank God Clippy died or something, or Clippy got retired. The year 2000, all of the BS
Mm.
around Y2K, right? And I mean gazillions of dollars being spent, and then it was sort of a fad or a fear or something like that. I remember in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s, they were going to have. I'm looking at Joel. Everyone's jabbing me back. But there are fads, Joel. There are fads, and what I mean by a fad is where people overreact to them, right? Right. The
Yeah,
Clippy
yeah,
did
yeah.
influence things, but was it really that? Remember what was it called? That there was software that was going to write code for you. There was a fear in the 70s, 80s, probably around that time frame. I forget what it was called, where software was going to create software
Hmm.
and tools were going to write software. You were going to feed it a model. You were going to feed it a model, and it was going to chunk out code. And I remember every developer on the planet Earth was like, "Holy crap! We just wrote code to put ourselves out of code, out of business." And I mean, everyone. And I was sort of wigging a little bit, but people were really wigging out. But then we were like going along with it. But then it like pooped out. Now
Hmm.
it did create a set. You see it in a lot of editors and things where there's smart editors. I haven't coded in a long time, but there's smart editors that'll give
Yeah.
you frameworks and help you fill in things and help you with libraries and things like that. So it did accelerate the coding process, but it didn't replace everyone. And that's what I'm hearing with the AI stuff now. That companies are talking about, and it sort of scares me. I wonder if people are overreacting. Like some companies are talking to board meetings and say we're going to reduce our headcount by 20% or 25% by leveraging AI. And I'm like, really? Is that what you're trying to do?
I naturally disagree with you.
I thought you
Um,
might.
I think what you saw in the 70s, 80s, and with Clippy was they were too early. They had the right idea because GitHub has what they call Copilot. It's an AI that sits there with you as you write the code and is like, oh, I think you're trying to do this, and here's everything that you need, and that's built off of all of the code that they have. They have read that in and understood what they were trying to do, and now can apply that
Right.
in a developer's job, which is to me very powerful and very handy because I am of the opinion, I have been for a decade plus, that a language for a developer is just a tool. And if I can automate that, then that's simple and easy, but I don't really gain anything. What a great developer is they are great at solving complex problems with code, whatever flavor of code that is out there. They are able to break things down and build them in a scalable and maintainable way. Will Copilot and things like that get there? I think so. But I don't think you're ever going to take away the value of having a human attached to it. Now, my career started out in a lucky manner where I was on the forefront of various transformational technology, where I was actually doing SaaS before SaaS was a thing. Then I got into things like big data. And after I got into big data, that was one of those things where I said, okay, what's the next thing that's happening? And how do I make sure that I'm ahead of the curve with that? Because what I saw was I saw folks that never got on board with that technology and have been left behind. So it went from big data to mobile and then like crazy scaling, and people will say web scale and all the memes that are out there, but how to make that a fundamental thing. And I see AI as that next thing. I don't see it being a fad. I see it continuing to evolve in a very rapid manner that for me and my kids, I'm spending time with them, making sure they understand what this is about, and I'm building tools with and around the AIs that are out there. And I sit them down with me and I talk them through, like, hey, this is the problem I'm trying to solve. Here's how I'm using this to help me, because I believe it's going to be a foundational skill for the next generation of workers to be able to maximize the support tools that are out there. And I do see AI as a support tool.
I was thinking about what Joel said. He said he attended an AI session at the Scrum Gathering. Joel, if you have a handy link or something, it would be interesting to share that, even the title or who the presenter or presenters were, because I'd be interested if there's a replay or something to try to listen to that. I'm trying to think of. I had a response and then I got diverted. Josh. Oh, I know what it was. So Jeff Sutherland, I think, wrote a book called "Twice as Much in Half the Time." Twice as much,
Yeah.
right? Whatever it is, twice as much in half the time. And I saw this has nothing. It's not an AI book. Now he may have used AI to write. No, I don't. I doubt it. But and what I've seen is people react. People, leaders, senior leaders, organizational leaders react to the title and they get on the bandwagon
Yeah.
and so part of fattery to me
We'll go
is
with it. Yeah, that's a new word.
part of the fattery is it so you're thoughtfully handling AI,
Mhm.
right? You're a thoughtful guy anyway,
Yeah.
and you're thoughtfully handling it, and you're doing your due diligence. And you just said something magical that I don't think AI, right? It's not replacing the human, or in most
Mhm.
cases, right? It's a partnership with humans.
Right.
It's a tool, and it's a partnership. But part of flattery is I don't know if everyone interprets it that way.
Yeah.
There's this wave of overreaction and zealousness and oversimplification to AI right now that has nothing to do with you. Right, it has everything to do with CEOs across the planet,
Right.
and that's part of that fattery, right? It's the fact that what who came out and said we need to slow roll AI. A couple, was
E
it Elon?
uh, Elon Musk.
Elon, but some other folks
Yeah.
have not
There's some
not
other
not a whole
leaders
lot
out there. Yeah.
in technology, and it's like slow roll, uh, because it's creating part of Fattery is it creates this youthful, sort of exuberance and maliciousness. Like I saw the other day, AI, what it can simulate someone's voice.
Mhm.
So there's situations where AI, um, what you get a call from one of your kids, and AI mimics the voice of your child,
Yeah.
and is trying to ring you for money,
Mhm.
right? And so part of there's the fattery. There's this destructiveness to the wave as well, and that's part of my hope that it's just a fad. Like, where's the thoughtfulness in it?
Yeah, I mean, there was destructiveness in Elvis Presley and the Beatles too. So I just don't
What
I
the
don't
hell does
see it
that?
like that. What do you
Are you
mean?
slam it? Did you just slam what Elvis Presley?
Yeah.
Did you just slam the king? Don't make
I
me get up
didn't
and
slam the king. I was giving him
don't make me
credit.
get up and swivel
I
my
was
hips
I
in a
That's what
metal
I'm saying.
in a
The
metacast.
danger that was perceived by him dancing on stage and how that was going to affect the youth of yesteryear, aka Bob, that that was deemed as a very dangerous thing and could not be on television. So there's always dangers to new thoughts and ideas, especially as they are emerging. The cynical side of Josh looks at the people that said, "Hey, we should slow down." And are they saying, "Hey, slow down so I can catch up?" I think there's a little bit of that there. Now, I think there's a little bit of like, "Hey, let's like, you know, dot our I's and cross our T's." But also, I think there's a fair amount of like, "Whoa, I got beat. You guys slow down so I can catch up." Wow. Contemplative Bob. Look at what we've done. Look at what this episode has done
No, no,
to
I'm
our
reading
friend
like
Robert Galen.
so so I'm just getting uncomfortable. So Joel said something. I can see it being a huge game changer in creating backlogs. Starting with a blank page is great for blogs. Starting with a blank page for product backlogs often leads to blank backlogs. I absolutely disagree with that. If you can't create a backlog as a product owner, right? Go get go do something else. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's doing your job. I mean, it also, oh, okay. Now I have non-blank backlogs. Are they really thoughtful? Are they really solving the customer's problems? Uh, and if you want to trust AI to do that, well, okay, then we don't need a product owner at all. Then just fire up the AI engine and fire all the product owners and create that stuff that way. And so Steven said something fat. What did he? Fat, and there will always be folks who use new tools in a negative way. Okay, get that. But do we need to be cautious with it? Do we need to slow the roll a little bit? I'm not slowing the roll. There's nothing wrong with caution, for goodness sakes. Like if you teach your sons to drive, Josh, right? Are you going to just throw them into a Ferrari and throw them out there with an AI bot and say,
All
"Go,
gas, no
boys"?
brakes.
Yeah. Is that it? That's it.
No.
That's what. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. Bring those boys up to me. I'll teach them how to drive. No, but I mean, I get the point, but then there is this tipping point where things can get dangerous, things can get dodgy, and we're not talking about that. We're talking about it in terms of, oh, just it's not, don't worry about it, right? The product owner can't create a backlog. Don't worry about it. Yeah, do that. I think there's a line where there's the useful tooling, and then like with creation, IP creation, there's a line with, well then put the bot's name on it and don't put your name on it, right?
There
There's
there's
this line that I think out there that I that
yeah,
I worry about.
that you are very uncomfortable with, and I am comfortable with because I've gone far enough to use that to generate a bulk of the content that I publish. My daughter is an artist, and there are many AI bots that are out there that you can feed it a description of what you want. Is like, hey, here's 4 or 5 options. What do you think? And in her community, as artists that are generating content, a lot of effort and energy goes into it. And then to have a bot create the same thing, that's scary and frustrating. One of the things that I've tried to work with her on, and she's not there yet, but using it
Right.
as an idea, as a generator, because as she's working through some of her projects, like this is her senior year in high school, so there's a big project that she's doing, and she wants to create 5 different portraits, and each one tells a different story. And so she and I often talk about, okay, what's the next one that you are working on, and how do you want to represent that visually? And so we talk about it and through ideas. I'm like, like let's just put this out there and like see. Let's say like, hey, this is the thing I want to draw or want to paint. What kind of craziness can you come up with? And that might be the thing that puts you on the idea like, oh, I freaking love that. And then now you have that passion to deliver that through the visual media that you use to create. I don't see that as any different as somebody scrolling through the web and looking for things, which she does. So she has Pinterest and all of these images and videos pinned of inspirational pictures that she uses to start to piece together what she thinks she wants to create. This is the same thing. It's just it's a different tool to achieve the same goal.
I I I guess. I mean,
You could just say no. I think you're freaking crazy, Josh. Like that's fine. Do it.
no, no, no. I worry about, well, like take the AI bots, take the AI out of it, right? What
Mhm.
I worry about your daughter's creativity. I worry, like, what if she was born 30 years ago? Like, how would she do that? And you sort of answered the question. She would look for inspiration. She
Mhm.
would walk out in nature or whatever. She would walk around. Her observation skills would become finely tuned, right? Her thoughtfulness would become finely tuned. She would interact with people to get different voices. I guess that's what artists do, right? I guess that's right. I do every morning. I spend 2 hours on LinkedIn looking for inspiration, right? I don't, and I get inspired very about AI, about other topics. I get positively inspired. I get negatively inspired. I get inspired by the universe just gave us a barking dog. We won't have that with AI. The dog just got excited about the river agrees with me, right? I could feel it. No, but do you know what I'm saying? It's like
I do.
there's this, where do we get creativity? Where do we get innovation?
Yeah.
Where do we maximize the heart of the human spirit? And and I worry a little bit about that's just going down the tubes.
Yeah.
Or
I don't see it as black and white of it's one or the other. There are certainly companies and individuals and organizations that will attempt to treat it as that, like we've seen in the comments, where we're just going to replace X% of our workforce with AI bots because that can get the job done. And like many things, they're going to try it and they're going to stumble and they're going to fail. And then they're going to realize, oh crap, we were wrong. Now let's dial it back a bit. Now, there are the thoughtful ones, like Bob said that I am, and I'm trying to be, where I'm looking for appropriate applications of tools like these. For instance, one of the things that I'm working on that I've shared with Bob that Bob is kind of excited about is we have 250 episodes, which is roughly um, a couple days worth of audio. Like if you were to just string it back to back to back, actually it's longer than that. It would be 220 hours.
Stephen is
So
killing me.
what?
Stephen is
Good,
killing me.
good,
This,
Stephen, you're the man. Keep it up.
keep it
Uh,
up, Stephen. Just
so
bring it on.
yeah, so there is literally 10 days worth of knowledge and experience that Bob and I have created through this podcast that people keep coming back to and telling us that they enjoy, they like, they use it, it helps them on their daily jobs. So I've been working on taking all of our content, loading it into a chat bot so that you could ask Bob and Josh whatever question you have 24/7 and just always get an answer, not have to like schedule time with us because we're busy and we'll send you a Calendly link and the answer you need right now you can't get, but oh well, because of our calendars we can talk to you like next Thursday for 24 minutes. And that's a challenge, but we have created so much value that how can we use that to continue to deliver on our mission of helping everyone be more effective at their jobs,
So
specifically in the world of agile and leadership.
that, I mean, I tried it. I tried the version you had
Yeah.
seeded it with, maybe 50 or
Yeah.
whatever, however many podcasts, and I loved it.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was entirely accurate because
It
when
wasn't.
I
It
asked
was a
it
small
when
sample.
I but when I asked it the question about word count and who talks more, it said me, and I'm incredulous. I didn't, and in fact, it even talked about me being verbose. I I I don't know.
Verbose is so it's a kind bot, right? It was nice and said verbose. Didn't say, you know, incessantly rambles.
So these use cases where you have intellectual property
Mhm.
and you're looking for what I think of as creative ways to access it and to learn from it, that I'm okay with. That to me is AI as a tool, right? Well, I think where I'm railing is where I was railing in your daughter's case. Like, how do you learn to be an artist? I don't want it to neutralize her artistic
Yeah.
creativity, whatever that is. I'm not an artist. but how, like, if someone, what if she's a graphic artist and there's this notion of ideas? How do you
Mhm.
get, and how do you evolve ideas and the genesis of them? You, not a machine, but you,
Yeah.
and you have an ability to do that.
Well,
You learned to be Josh. When I say you were thoughtful, you have 20 years of non-AI experience, or however,
mhm.
what, right? You have you have 20 years of non-AI aided experience
Yeah.
that evolved you. What if you were just coming out of college now in this AI environment? How would you get the 20 years of Josh, the failures, the experiences? And I want to make sure you get that. Now,
Yeah.
maybe optimize it. I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
Optimizing it, reducing some of the failures. But some of those failures made you who you are today.
Right.
Some of those mistakes, or whatever you want to say. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm railing against
Yeah.
more.
And I don't see that going away. I think, like anything, there's going to be many folks that try and use it as a shortcut. And I can get from here to there in less time. But that experience doesn't land in your worldview. You don't understand really how to use it. You know how to push a button to get a thing, but you don't have there's no connection to it. Now, my daughter, the artist, is very resistant to this idea because in her industry, there's a lot of folks that are scared by it and know if used improperly could replace all of the revenue that they generate in minutes. So
Right.
that's a very scary thing, and she's thoughtfully saying, "Dad, I hear you, but no, I'm not going to do it just on principle because I know it's a thing that other creators like me are wrestling with, and I don't want to be part of that." And I'm perfectly fine with that. But I'm also the guy that will continue to just like be in her ear, like, like we can get some help. Um, but I
Well, there's
but
also
I
the
too have
differentiation, right?
no
It's
yeah.
There's
What's
a
that?
differentiation though. So I could see it as it's a way for mediocre artists to compete. And I don't want, and that's fine. I don't want that.
Mhm.
I want your daughter, I don't mean, or any artist, to be
Yeah.
rising to the top and learning their craft. It would be the same thing. And I think learning your craft then differentiates you, and you can argue against the mediocrity. So I feel like I'm I'm laying on a cutting board. I'm like a dinosaur laying on a cutting board, and everyone in chat and you are like carving me up. So
Well,
I'd like to. I may be. I'm. Well, you know what? Let me check with Chat GPT and figure out what imagery would work. Maybe I'm a chicken leg or something. So I'm on a cutting board, uh, but I want to turn it around to everyone, and you included. Uh, and so, what are the dangers? Everyone's been a proponent. Everything's been positive, right? It's the best thing since sliced bread. Okay, fantastic. What are you,
it's better
cameras?
than
What do we
sliced
do?
bread.
So I want to hear, what are people worried about then? What are the worries? What are the dangers? I don't want to just be the sole voice.
Yeah.
Nothing is. Come on, what are the dangers, folks? I want to see that in chat.
Yeah,
What are
the
you worried about?
like anything, the problem isn't going to be the tool. The problem is going to be those that are wielding the tool, wielding it without responsibility and in an effort to achieve the shortcut that may deliver in the short term, but will unlikely deliver long-term success. So but again, that holds true with many things that are in our world,
I,
right? If you look at TikTok, right? That's probably the most used app in the
what,
US,
wait,
and
wait, hold it. What, TikTok? Are you
TikTok,
talking
not
about
your
this?
watch. No, Bob. No, Bob. Yet there are known security issues because it's owned and operated by a company in China, and research has been done and pulled out all of the information that is being shared back to the home office in China and all the dangers that go along with that.
Yep,
And the direct access that they have to such a large portion of our population where influence could begin to
yep,
spread very
yep,
much like we saw on Facebook with elections years ago from Russia, whichever side you're on with that, like that's a known
yep.
thing that happened. And TikTok is like the next version of that, that there are rightful concerns about that. And I've had discussions with my kids about how we use it and what we do and the dangers and things like that.
Yeah.
And there's never going to be a transformational innovation that comes out that isn't going to have this response. This is part of the life cycle of us evolving. And wow, Stephen Kellogg just wrote a freaking novel in there, and
I
I'm not
know.
even reading it, but I
I
know it's
can't even.
good.
Oh no, a twofer. He's got. He's he's killing me.
Yeah.
It's like
So there, so
I'm gonna flip Bob over and fricassee the other side. Uh, can you keep these comments, Josh? Do these?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to rebut. I need to go mano o mano on Steven
Oh man, yeah, Mr.
offline.
Kellogg, watch
No,
out. That's a
I don't know. No, but
dangerous.
I need to. I can't keep up and read it.
Yeah.
I agree with you. So the one danger is the people,
Hmm.
right? It always is. It's not
Yeah.
just for this, but it's amplified because of the fervor and because of the scope potentially. TikTok, your example, the data scope. Like this, we're in a digital age. It's. I think the ramifications are different nowadays. What about falseness? Uh, I've read, and I don't know this, but like you can ask for something from ChatGPT, and since it's using the web, you can get false narratives, you can get false data, you can get
Yeah.
error-prone solutions. Right? Is that true? So
Yeah.
you
Without a
it
doubt.
can give you a solution or an article that's actually completely false, and if you don't have a clue, I'm not a, but if you're not, if you're using it as
Yeah.
your
Blindly. If you're using it blindly.
if
Yeah.
blindly, right? So the falseness of the data, and at least in the U.S., we're in this like sort of very very binary, very
Yeah.
left
Yeah.
and right
Yep.
sort of social system. There's a lot of bad data in the world. So I think that can be a problem as well, right? Or even in the art world, are you using things that can be that you have the permission to do, like photos? Can you
Yeah.
reuse photos and things? It could be
Yeah.
disruptive to intellectual property rights for music and for graphics and things.
Yeah, a very similar situation has been a frustration that my kids have had at their elementary and middle school. So we send them to a charter school and we love it to death, but Wikipedia is viewed as error prone and evil there. And I've raised my kids that it's actually the opposite because it's democratized data. And I talk about how amazed I was when Wikipedia was very young and I decided to add myself to a list of famous people from the city of Akron. And I just did that because I'm like, yeah, of course I should be on there. I think I'm famous. So yeah. And in literal seconds, that was corrected by all of the folks that are out there ensuring that that data is as reasonable as possible. So that proved to me that the ecosystem of something like that, it doesn't mean it's perfect, would limit the likelihood that it's wrong because of what they've set up. And Chat GPT isn't there yet, but they're optimizing it and they are learning similar to the way Wikipedia has, to where in my household it's a trusted source and it's a place that we go to often because we understand how it works and value it, but
Right,
also we have learned, like other things, like it's been wrong. So it can't be black or white. And as we've talked about in the agile world, people want that silver bullet. They want, give me that one thing that's going to give me the answer so I don't have to think about it. And there is no such thing.
I want to bring up an edge case to see, and it may be like a diversity or inclusion edge case, but my wife and I are getting older, and her mom is older, so we're in the senior, 65 to 85 to 90, in that range. I belong to AARP. I get periodicals from them. and we get inundated with phone calls, spoofing, spamming, emails, um, and so one of the things that I worry about, and I'd like to hear you react to it, but this stuff, the spammers, the folks who are trying to steal from older folks who don't have the cognitive abilities
Mhm.
of young whippersnappers like you and Steven and everyone else. And this is a serious, I'm not joking around.
Yeah.
This is a serious
Yeah.
thing. They can get tricked into losing. Exactly. River agrees with me, I think, right now. They can get tricked. And I think this is making it easier. It's a worrier. And I know this is a people problem, but it's a subset. This is the really malicious and making it easier and easier and easier to spoof people and to take their livelihoods and stuff. Am I overreacting? Or do you see
No,
that
no,
trend?
I think it continues to ease the approach that's required to unfortunately attack the generations that aren't as comfortable with everything that's going on. So without a doubt, it simplifies things on their end and probably automates things even more because now I can build a literal chatbot that will talk to you with a voice profile that I've given it that is someone you trust, and now that can be a push of a button instead of having an army of people that are doing it in an office building in India, which is where most of the scammers are. There's
Is
some
it
really good
exactly?
YouTube videos that are out there, of people busting those scammers that are worth checking out and understanding how it works and the approach that they take to protect yourself and family members, just to educate them on, like, hey, here's the common attacks. But this without a doubt makes it easier, and it makes it easier for the operators of those systems, and it makes it harder for those of us that are out there that are getting a barrage because they're just going to be better.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and it's not just the chat, it's not just the text, but like I was talking about earlier, it's voices, it's visualization. I saw a debate the other day. I don't know who was creating it, but there was two. It was obviously created. It's like Steve Jobs talking to Elon Musk or something like that. And it seemed like so they were computer generated figures having computer generated, maybe AI
Yeah.
generated discussions, and I could discern that the visualization, well, clearly Jobs is dead, right? Clearly he wasn't resurrected. But at the same time, I was looking ahead a year or two or five, and I was like, oh my gosh, from a visualization perspective, look how it was incredibly accurate discussions. And as that evolves, it's going to be, I mean, it's going to be really hard for folks to discern what's a real discussion, what's a real fidelity representative versus what's not, right? What's a real Josh Anderson versus what's not.
Yeah, and those at risk are folks like us that generate content that can be scraped and used and all of that. So you think about celebrities and everything that goes into that. They the pictures of them are abundant, and transcripts of things that they're saying are abundant. So the total opportunity for someone to use that for good or bad is much higher.
Thank you, Rock Bar 99, for the shout out for the suspenders. Yes,
I
they
didn't
keep
notice the Mario vibe. That's pretty good. I think maybe next time
it could
he
be.
wears
Well,
this,
I
then
think
I'll
I think
be.
the
Yeah,
color schemes work,
yeah,
right, for that.
yeah.
I know.
Guess we just need a little bit
I
better hat.
I and I don't have I need a better hat.
Yeah,
I didn't have, yeah.
yeah.
So it's I want to switch this gears. I'm too curmudgeonly. I'm coming off fearful. I want to get on board. Like the experiment you ran, Josh, really, I loved it,
Mhm.
to be clear. The ability to look in the Metacast and to evolve that, uh, I, I was super excited about that, the possibilities of that. So there are these well thought out, sort of strategies, and I think places where it works. I think a lot of these edge cases I worry about, or the human, sort of
Yeah,
human error.
I don't think you should apologize or play down the fears that you have, because that's a real part of the discussion. And to me, that's one of the values that we have with the generational difference, that exists is we just come from different places, and we both represent very large swaths of folks that are out there, that people have relatives or siblings or whatever that might be wrestling or concerned with some of those same things. So it's really important for me for you to share those, because I don't think they're, now of course the young bucks will give you a hard time about it, but it's real. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a real feeling that Bob has, and it's a real feeling that many, many, many people have. So I think there's a ton of value in you putting that out there. So I would just ask you don't like hide it.
no, fair. Well, the other thing is, again, it's the technologists that are comfortable with it, like you, Stephen, that are talking about it. But we forget there's an entire world. There's a third world that's not as technically. It's not everyone lives in the United States. Not everyone has our connectivity. Right? There's folks in Africa and India that are different. There's masses of the population that can be disrupted by this. So we have to be thinking about, yes, I'm comfortable, but look at it on a much broader scale. And the positive effect, I'm sure there's medical, for example, medical. I've read some things about medical and diagnosis. Wonderful, wonderful stuff there. So there's this yin and yang. I'm not big on government intervention, but I think of regulatory, uh, and maybe not having
That
our
scares the crap
government,
out of me.
right? But
Yeah.
I think it's right now, is it regulated at all?
No.
It's not. It's like this Wild Wild West show. So maybe when I say slow the roll, I'm really saying some and thoughtful, and I don't know if we have any of those people,
Mhm.
but thoughtful regulation is something that would make me feel much better,
Yeah.
uh, in the environment right now. I don't
Yeah, I
know
mean,
if there's any.
we can go down the political path, but I think to your point, I don't think there's any thoughtful regulation that is out there, at least in our government. I'm a Bitcoin guy, so things like this are a place where I'm comfortable, where it's not regulated and it's new, and I see opportunity for humans, individual and groups of them that are out there. So I naturally want things like that to win, but I also know that I'm probably in the minority of folks that fit into that.
The other thing I worry about too is this overzealousness, and this is a final point for me. I want to bring people job loss, and maybe I'm being again a curmudgeon, but I'm seeing so much damn job loss right now. Agile job loss, overreaction job loss, particularly in the technical sector. And I just see this. This is probably a major factor for me of my and I'm okay. It's not going to touch me, but
Yeah.
it's touching a lot of people that I care about, a lot of people that I know, and this overzealousness to job loss and reduction, and just accelerating that. That's why I was going with the projections of we can reduce staff here, here, and here,
Yeah.
and just build AI. And I'm like, no, I mean you're cutting lives. Oh, and they'll retrain, or they'll do this, or they'll do that, or they were mediocre anyway. So we're just keeping the top 20%. I That makes me uncomfortable right now. It really does. From a just I know it may not make logical sense, but from a human factors, I know so many people who are looking for work and not finding it, and it's so hard. Even on the and I think this even affects the recruitment cycle and the resume cycles and the interview cycles and things like that. So
I,
be thoughtful there as well. I know
yeah.
you're going to disagree with me.
Well,
I know
I don't.
you're the cream rises to the top guy.
Yeah. Yes, I am. But yeah, I mean, that's a direction that I was going. That's certainly how I operate. Um, but for instance, on the HR side, I think it could do some really interesting things with connections and having a marketplace that's out there of people looking for jobs and it finding matches that people trust. Now that puts the recruiting companies on edge, because it does put their market at risk. But again, I am not willing to live in the world where we choose not to progress because of some of the things that will happen. That's nature. Now we try and control it as much as we can, but I also recognize that evolutions happen, and there are side effects that people didn't think about that do affect humans. And while I don't want anybody to be put in a bad spot, I don't think that's a thing that we can stop.
We can bring thoughtfulness to it.
Yeah.
1,100 people lost their jobs at Capital One because they had agile in their title, and people think that that's not necessary, and it comes back full circle to leaders who don't. It's good people make good decisions, bad people make bad decisions, or
Yeah.
something like that, right? And but there's a lot of leaders. There's a lot. We've talked about it in Medicast. There's a lot of clueless leaders in the planet. There's
Yeah. I
more clueless leaders on the planet than there are thoughtful leaders.
Yes, without a doubt.
So, so let's bring that, and then people suffer from that. I know I'm being too humanistic. I should,
No,
you know,
I don't
I'll,
think you are. I think you are 100% right. What I don't understand is how AI makes that worse. It's already bad. I don't think it's going to make good people bad.
twice the work in half the time. Right. The book
But those folks
wasn't
are
bad,
already doing that. They're already saying that. They're already searching for ways to
and
make
it
that
gives them,
happen.
and now it gives me 10 to 20 more ways to make that happen, or 120 more ways to, or excuses for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So without that thoughtful, so if I could replicate, maybe if I had a billion Josh Andersons, then I would feel better right now.
I'm sorry. There's only two of
And
us.
I could sprinkle, and I can sprinkle them around the planet. Well, and Stephen Kellogg's. Uh, and did he actually write that, or did he get a bot to do that
We'll
for him? Oh,
never
that's
know.
we'll
Only
never
Steven will
know.
know.
He'll only know. I've that's I think we nailed it. What do you think? Not nailed it. We may come back to this. This might
Yes.
be an episode we come back to in a little while, Josh. Not in a month, but maybe a year or two. We can come back and revisit it. When
Sorry.
when River is when River is older.
River is letting me know that she's unhappy that I've been in this chair for a long period of time.
Well, it's been over time, right? We're over
Yes,
time.
yes,
We
yes.
need to stick a fork in. So, Metacasters from beautiful downtown, and it is beautiful today, Cary, North Carolina. I'm Bob Galen.
And from beautiful Fuquay Arena, North Carolina, I'm Josh Anderson.
Shake.
And bake. There we go.
Take care, y'all.